Good morning. This is Raghu, Assistant Professor of Biotechnology from SRN BGNR Government College, Khammam. So today's topics are gene expression regulation in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. In the previous classes, we have seen the gene expression, that is protein synthesis, how transcription translation happens. In this topic, we will see how the expression of genes are regulated in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So first of all, gene expression regulation in prokaryotes. In prokaryotes, the genes are called as operons. The operon concept is given by Jacob and Monod. So Jacob and Monod are the two scientists who has given the operon concept. So the genes in prokaryotes are called as operons. If you see the general structure of a operon, for example lac operon, you can clearly see on the top there are structural genes, regulatory region and repressor gene. As we have seen earlier, in bacteria or prokaryotes, more than one protein is coded at a time, and also the transcription and translation are coupled. Here also double-stranded DNA is showing multi-genes which are called as structural genes like A, Y, Z, and a regulatory region which is composed of operator and promoter. As we have already seen, the promoter function, it plays an important role in binding of RNA polymerase. And this operator region, it has a special function. And in the upstream you can see the repressor gene which will code for a repressor protein that will go and bind to operator region. So this is the general structure of an operon. The operon contains regulatory region which is comprised of operator and promoter, and a repressor gene which will code for a repressor protein that will bind to the operator region, and the structural genes A, Y, Z in case of lac operon, which will code for A will code for transacetylase, B will code for permease, and lac Z will code for beta galactosidase. So this is the gene structure or operon structure which was proposed by Jacob and Monod. And how the genes are regulated. How these genes are regulated. Positive versus negative control. First of all, in positive control, a protein or an activator will bind to the DNA and it plays an important role in the transcription process. That means it helps in expression of the genes, or it increases the DNA expression. That means it plays an important role for the process of protein synthesis. That is called as positive control. So transcription is increased by the activator. In negative control, a factor or a protein binds the DNA and decreases the process of transcription. So the transcription process is decreased by the protein. So that is negative control. So in positive control, the transcription increases. In negative control, the transcription decreases. So that is positive and negative controlling mechanisms. So in positive control, the operon will be on and the regulatory protein is activator. So the activator will bind to the operon and plays an important role in the process of protein synthesis. So that is positive control. In negative control, the operon will be off. So that means the regulatory protein will be repressor. So the repressor goes and binds to the operator region such that it does not allow the RNA polymerase to transcribe the operon. So the operon will be off. So that is the difference between positive and negative control. So positive control, operon will be on, transcription increases. Negative control, operon will be off, transcription does not take place. And the regulatory protein in positive control is an activator, and the regulatory protein in negative control is a repressor. So while coming into the operons, the different kinds of operons are repressible operon or inducible operon. Repressible operon or inducible operon. So you can see the first one, repressible operon. Here the repressor protein is generally inactive. Here the repressor protein is generally inactive. The external factor will act as co-repressor, activating the repressor, and it will switch off the operon. So if at all the operon is in on condition, it will be switched off. That is repressible operon. So generally the repressor protein is inactive in this repressor operon. So the external factor will act as a co-repressor and activate the repressor such that the co-repressor complex will go and bind to the operator region, switching off the operon. So that is repressible operon. In inducible operon, the repressor is active. So in general only the repressor will go and bind to operator and it will switch off the operon. The external factor will inactivate the repressor, turning on the operon. So that is inducible operon. So in repressible operon, the operon will be switched off. In inducible operon, the operon will be switched on. So repressible operon, the repressor protein is inactive, and in inducible operon, the repressor protein is active. So that is the major difference. So inducible operon, best example is lac operon. So that means whenever lactose is present, immediately the switched off lac operon will be switched on. So repressor, active repressor will be deactivated by the allolactose. So the inducible operon is lac operon. In repressible operon, best example is tryptophan operon. In general, the repressor is inactive. In the presence of tryptophan, it will become active and prevent the transcription of tryptophan synthesis genes. That we will see in the next slides. So this is repressible operon and inducible operon. So inducible operons, best example lac operon, repressible operon, best example is tryptophan operon. So this is the lac operon. This is the lac operon. So here when lactose is present, the condition is when lactose is present. So you can clearly see the lac operon, operator, promoter, regulatory gene and 3 structural genes. Generally regulatory gene codes for, left you can see regulatory gene codes for repressor protein called as lac repressor, so which will go and bind to the operator region and does not allow the RNA polymerase to transcribe the structural genes. Whenever there is lactose, immediately the lactose, which is shown in pink color here, that means lactose will be converted into allolactose, and that allolactose, which is shown here in pink color, will go and bind to the repressor protein, making it into inactive repressor protein. The inactive repressor protein cannot bind to operator region, so the RNA polymerase will bind to the promoter and transcribe the genes necessary for the degradation of lactose. So this is the condition when lactose is present. So when lactose is present, the lactose will be converted into L-lactose. Inactivation of repressor protein will take place and the structural genes A, Y, Z will be coded. Permease, transcysteolase and beta-galactosidase are simultaneously synthesized by polycistronic mRNA. So that is the condition of lac operon when lactose is present. When lactose is absent, the repressor gene will code for repressor protein which is active, which will go and bind to the operator region and does not allow the RNA polymerase to transcribe the genes. So whenever there is a lactose in the medium, the gene will be active. That means it is an inducible operon. So lactose is an inducer. So whenever the inducer is present, the gene will be switched on. When the inducer is absent, the gene will be switched off. The same thing is happening here. Here the repressor protein is active. It will go and bind to the operator and it will prevent the transcription of structural genes A, Y, Z. Beside the regulatory gene, you can also see on the left top CAP region. Cyclic AMP activator protein. So it has a special function. We will see in the next slide. Cyclic AMP activator protein. This cyclic AMP activator protein plays an important role in the switching on and switching off of lac operon in the presence of another metabolite called as glucose. So here is the condition of lac operon in presence of low glucose levels and high glucose levels. So in general, the CAP protein is necessary for binding of RNA polymerase, and the CAP protein is activated by cyclic AMP. Cyclic AMP is synthesized from ATP by adenylase cyclase. When bacteria is grown in a medium containing high glucose and lactose, the bacteria will utilize the simplest carbon source and easily used metabolite, that is glucose. Until glucose is completely utilized, the lac operon will be in switched off condition. And how it is switched off is by this mechanism. Whenever there is high glucose in the medium and low glucose in the medium, these are the two conditions which will be shown in the slide. Apart of that, a small mechanism is need to be known. So this CAP protein requires cyclic AMP, as I mentioned. This cyclic AMP is synthesized from ATP by adenylase cyclase. Whenever there is high glucose in the medium, this glucose will inhibit adenylase cyclase. So cyclic AMP does not be synthesized and CAP protein is not activated. RNA polymerase cannot bind to the promoter region. The transcription does not occur. We can see in the downstream portion. When there is high glucose, there is no cyclic AMP, adenylase cyclase will be inhibited. CAP protein needs cyclic AMP. Since cyclic AMP is less, CAP is unable to bind to the promoter region. So RNA polymerase cannot bind to the promoter and cannot transcribe the genes necessary for the lactose utilization. Whenever the glucose is less, immediately adenylase cyclase will be activated. Cyclic AMP is synthesized from ATP. This cyclic AMP will bind to the CAP region, and this CAP protein along with cyclic AMP will bind to CAP site, whereas the RNA polymerase will go and bind to the promoter region and transcribe the genes necessary for lactose. So first the glucose is utilized. After glucose is completely utilized, then lactose is utilized. Until then the glucose is utilized, the lac operon will be switched off, which is shown in the top position. Left to top, low glucose levels, and left bottom high glucose levels. So that is the condition of lack operon. So in presence of high glucose, the lack operon is switched off. So this is called as glucose effect or catabolite repression. So the glucose is the catabolite. So it is repressing the lack operon. So that is called as catabolite repression or glucose effect. Catabolite repression or glucose effect. So that is lack operon. In the presence of lactose, in the absence of lactose, in the presence of glucose and lactose. So that is the inducible operon. The next one is tryptophan operon. This one is tryptophan operon. It's a repressible operon. It's a repressible operon. You can see the structural genes A, B, C, D and D. They will code for tryptophan synthesizing enzymes. Tryptophan synthesizing enzyme. Whenever there is less tryptophan, generally the repressor here is inactive. The repressor here is inactive. So it cannot bind to the promoter region. It cannot bind to the promoter region. So that is the condition of the repressible operons. The repressor will be in inactive condition. So continuously the tryptophan will be synthesized. Whenever the tryptophan levels are sufficient, immediately the tryptophan will act as co-repressor and it will go and bind to the repressor, making it active. And the co-repressor complex will go and bind to the operator. So the RNA polymerase which bound the promoter cannot move further and the synthesis of tryptophan will be stopped. Structural genes necessary for tryptophan synthesis will be stopped. So that is the tryptophan operon. So in tryptophan operon, whenever there is insufficient tryptophan, in general the repressor protein cannot bind to operator, so the tryptophan synthesizing enzymes are transcribed. Whenever there is enough tryptophan, so the tryptophan will act as co-repressor. It will bind to the repressor, making it to active compound. So both the co-repressor and repressor will bind to the operator region, so decreasing the activity of RNA polymerase. So that is tryptophan operon, repressible operon. Inducible operon, repressor protein is active. In repressible operon, repressor protein is inactive. So that is gene expression regulation at transcriptional level in prokaryotes. While coming to the eukaryotes, gene expression regulation in eukaryotes, you can see clearly the various steps where you can regulate the gene expression in prokaryotes. At genome level, so you can prevent the expression of genes at genome level by different methods like gene amplification, deletion, gene rearrangement, DNA methylation, chromatin condensation, histone modification, methylation, acetylation. So these are the different methods which you can regulate the gene expression at gene level. At transcriptional level, by transcription factors, enhancers and silencers. And also you can regulate it by transport of mRNA from nucleus to cytoplasm, which we have seen in the post-transcriptional modification. After post-transcriptional modification, the mRNA is transported from nucleus to cytosol. That you can prevent. So that is at RNA processing and nuclear export. And at translational level, so translation may occur on free ribosomes in the cytosol or on the endoplasmic reticulum. You can control this translation in the cytosol at translational level. That we will see. And the other one is post-translational level. That is after protein is formed, either by protein modification or protein degradation. So these are the different levels of regulation of gene expression in eukaryotes in detail. So first one, regulation of gene expression at chromatin level. So we all know that chromatin will be existing in two major structural structures, that is euchromatin and heterochromatin. So heterochromatin is highly condensed form of chromatin and euchromatin is relaxed form of chromatin. So you can convert the heterochromatin to euchromatin by acetylation of the histone proteins by histone acetyl transferases. They will acylate the histone proteins such that the heterochromatin will be converted to euchromatin, making the compact structure of DNA to relaxed structure such that the DNA can undergo DNA replication as well as transcription. If at all you want to control the expression of genes at chromatin level, the euchromatin will be again converted into heterochromatin, or you can prevent the process of acetylation by inhibiting histone acetyl transferases. So and prevent the conversion of heterochromatin to euchromatin. So this is the process of prevention of gene expression at chromatin level by chromatin remodeling. So here you can see clearly acetylation of histone proteins. So activator compounds will activate histone acetyl transferases. They will acetylate the histone groups. So this acetylation promotes, you can clearly see the relaxation of the histones and DNA, where the transcription machinery can access easily the DNA. So if at all you want to prevent the process of transcription, so you can stop the process of histone acetylases so that the DNA compaction will be regulated. So this is the method of controlling the gene expression at chromatin level. So prevention of acetylation of histone proteins in the DNA, that is chromosome. So at transcriptional level, we have seen in the eukaryotic transcription regarding transcription associated factors and transcription binding proteins. So these factors enhance the process of transcription. So they will come under enhancers. They will enhance the process of transcription. Whereas silencers will prevent the process of transcription. So there are certain enhancers like high mobility group proteins. They will even bend the DNA and play an important role in the process of transcription. Whereas silencers, they will be present in somewhere in the DNA. They will bind to some site of the DNA and prevent the transcription of number of genes present on the DNA. So that is the function of silencers. So this is the method of transcription level control by enhancers and silencers in eukaryotes. So enhancers will increase the transcription process, whereas silencers will deregulate the process of transcription. So that is silencers and enhancers. So next one is control of gene expression at mRNA level by microRNA. These are short microRNA, so which will bind to the mRNA and plays an important role in degradation of mRNA in cytosol. And the process is like this. You can clearly see. So this is small interfering RNA with 22 base pairs in length, 21 to 22 base pairs in length. So generally it's a double-stranded DNA. It is in inactive mode. So risk proteins, this slicer. So risk proteins are slicer, they are act as a slicer. So these risk proteins play an important role in conversion of this double stranded DNA to single stranded DNA. Now this single stranded DNA called as silencer siRNA. Silencer siRNA. So this silencer siRNA will bind to the mRNA that is to be knocked down. So it will bind to the mRNA to be knocked down. So when it bounds to the mRNA to be knocked down, it leads to degradation of mRNA or inhibition of mRNA translation. So that is the process of control of the expression, gene expression at translational level. So that is prevention of the process of translation of mRNA by small interfering RNA molecules. So the small interfering RNA molecules, when they are double stranded, they are processed by dicer and risk proteins. So they will convert the double stranded RNA to single stranded RNA that is complementary to the mRNAs that has to be knocked down. So they will go and bind to the mRNAs, forming double stranded DNA, which will be either degraded or it will prevent the translation of mRNA. So that is translational level control in eukaryotes. So the next one is gene expression control at protein level. That means after synthesis of protein. So in this process you can clearly see the degradation of proteins after proteins are completely synthesized. So the degradation happens by ubiquitination. So that means attachment of ubiquitin residues to the protein. For example, a protein has to be degraded after it is synthesized. So it happens when it is ubiquitinated. When ubiquitin is tagged to the protein, immediately ubiquitinated proteins will be degraded in 26S proteasome. So you can see clearly the yellow color one on the right side, that is 26S proteasome. So whatever protein that is tagged with ubiquitin, that is polyubiquitination. So polyubiquitinated proteins, poly means more than one ubiquitin. Polyubiquitinated proteins are immediately degraded in the 26S proteasome. So the protein has to be degraded is ubiquitinated, and that is degraded in 26S proteasome. After degradation, the ubiquitin will be recycled, the degraded protein will be removed from the cells. So that is the process of gene expression regulation after translation. That is, after the complete synthesis of proteins, the proteins will be degraded. So these are the major types of gene expression regulation in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So once again, thank you for patiently listening to the topic. Thank you.